Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free or join today at AAA.com/commanders. Hello and welcome to another live stream edition of the John Keim Report. Do me a favor, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube later, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there, of course, at Empire Media and see all our shows there and join us there. Don't forget, for you club members, I will be doing another private session for you later this week. I will let you know. Listen, I guess we'll just do it. You know what? We're doing it Thursday night. That's the call, Bram. So there we go. And as you can see, I'm joined by my pal, Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, coming off a very rough night for the home team. How you doing, Bram?
That was a rough one. That was one of the first real gut punches of the new era. Really, like I was really surprised. I maybe could argue maybe the first Dallas game last year where Turpin had the kickoff return for a touchdown and Terry scored on the miracle play and they missed the extra point. That felt like a gut punch that they lost. But this one just got away from them, and it was their mistakes. They have only themselves to blame for it. I think Dan Quinn would say that, and I think that's the toughest part of this. It was they beat themselves.
That is, and compared to that Dallas game, excuse me, last year, that was late in the year where they had already kind of established a lot of that magic, so to speak, or at least midway, more beyond the midway point. And you're still trying to figure out what this team is. How good is this team? And you think like a couple weeks ago after the Atlanta game, it's like, oh my God, this could be really bad. And then they fall down behind, the Chargers, like this could get really bad. And then they win. And you think like, hey, maybe they beat Chicago here. So it's really kind of, this team is still trying to figure out again. I'm trying to figure out how good are they? What can they do? And I don't think, I know according to Twitter, I think a lot of people have it all figured out. So more power to them. I don't know that I'm that smart. Other things I'm definitely concerned about, especially on defense. And then other things where you say like, this league is crazy. Like, look at the results every week, and it's you just don't know. And it's so much about when you play teams, Ram, and that's my concern the next 2 weeks, because you got CeeDee Lamb coming back possibly this week. And then in 2 weeks, Rashee Rice will be joining the Chiefs, and they are starting to get their stuff together. So just makes it a lot tougher, but it makes games like last night, to me, hurt even more for this team.
Well, I could also say I hope Terry McLaurin comes back.
Hey, there you go.
So, it's a possibility that Washington will get healthy for what I hope is like the first time. They haven't had their offense out there since day one of camp.
Correct.
They haven't had it, and so I'm really want to see what does this look like when they get everybody back, get everybody incorporated, get everybody healthy. Sam Cosmi comes back at some point. What does that mean for the offensive line? Terry McLaurin comes back. Our team's going to go away from like what the Bears did and not try to replicate what they did. I really, with 2 weeks, I've thought a lot of why. I obviously rewatched the game, and I thought a lot about their defensive game plan. This was a team that was getting shredded against the run. They just decided they weren't going to this particular week, and they took their chances with what was, I thought, the best part of their defense to this point in the season was their secondary, and they were getting a couple people back like Kyler Gordon. And they said, you know what, like I've been waiting for this for a few weeks. We dare you to throw it to the outside to these receivers. Sure. And you know what, like I'm maybe a little bit surprised that there wasn't more of this. They really sold out on the run. They did a great job. They were terrific on the edges. Their defense played really well. And despite all of that, like the fact that Jaden, I know people don't want to hear this, but his passer rating was almost like 120. It was like his highest passer rating in a loss. He did make a couple mistakes. They did navigate through it. They still ended up with 24 points, even after turning the ball over 3 times, even after missing a field goal. So, I think it's kind of the fact that they made the amount of mistakes that they made and their defense gave up the plays that they gave up and they lost by a point at the buzzer. It's one you can't get back, but I'm trying to be measured about it because they are 3-3. And if they can go down to Dallas and win, they're 4-3 and they're nipping on the Eagles' heels and everything's still kind of in front of them.
Well, I think you also have to look at it in context to the rest of the NFC East. So, like, again, you get people saying they should just punt on the season, start trading guys, whatever. Look at, like, the Eagles. We don't know where they're going to go. Like, every year it seems they come to these crossroads, and some years they go on and win the Super Bowl after these crossroads, right? So, but you don't know. Like, are the Giants really the team that you're going to say, okay, well, that's the team now? The Cowboys, like, they've got a lot of problems of their own as well. So I think you keep plugging and you hope that, but you hope, and I'm going to bring this up because I'm talking about Terry and Noah Brown, but you're right, Bram. Like they really decided like, go ahead and try and beat us with those outside guys, because I don't think you can. And they were right. And there were a couple times where Jalen Lane made some really nice moves. A double move with a 37-yard catch was really good, but you need those outside threats and to keep that running game going a certain way. So you get them back, and then what does it look like? So, you don't know how this is going to go. I will say, and like in some ways it's a lot like last year, except they were on the other end of it. But in terms of the offense has to lead the way. And, this is not some great silver lining or, participation trophy type stuff. But I've been kind of impressed with their offense, given the injuries, Bram, and the issues they've had, that they keep producing to where they are. It's just last night was the turnovers. Like those were killers. And I thought Jaden, outside of those turnovers, did a really nice job. But the turnovers matter. And
well, I mean, especially the second one when it happened. I mean, like when it happened was just
that was
a disaster. Yeah.
And
it's so out of character because I'm so accustomed to seeing them in what, Dan Quinn calls the winning time moments and all that stuff. Like I'm just not accustomed to seeing him make a mistake like that. And he owned it. Like he totally owned it. It was his mistake. He just described it losing focus. I'll give a little bit of an assist to the rain, whatever, but he owned it. I am more really like, because I think the offense has done the best it can with the hand it's been dealt. And I'm hoping we're going to see them with all of their weapons, hopefully healthy sooner rather than later. We get to see what the potential actually is. Like honestly, over the last few weeks, when I heard a lot of people complaining about Cliff, I'm sitting there going, like I heard last night, I was listening to the post-game show driving home, and I'm like listening to this and I'm going, okay, like when camp started, who had them going jumbo package to a multitude of plays with Trent Scott on the field as a sixth offensive lineman over and over and over? He's adjusting to what they have. This is not the offense they intended to run. He's adjusting to what they have. And frankly, they're still scoring 20 plus points a game. They could have had a lot more. They had a red zone. I mean, this is on them. They had a red zone turnover. They missed a field goal. They turned the ball over on the Bears side of the field in winning time moments. I mean, frankly, they could have scored 30 plus again, even amid an offensive performance where the Bears are saying, we're not scared of your outside threat literally whatsoever. And they still navigate and were able to do that. So I'm kind of dying to see what the potential is. And I think also to your point here, a couple weeks ago, they played the Falcons. They lost to the Falcons. That was a crossroads game for them. Guess what? Like the Falcons fired a coach and lost 30-0 the week before. And go check them out over the last couple of weeks. What they did last night, things could change really fast. I do believe that they have a special quarterback on this team. And I do believe that when his playmakers come back, specifically 17, when he comes back, hopefully healthy, I think that's going to help them immensely. The other side of the ball, we got to have a longer discussion about that, because that was,
I don't know if we have enough time.
The bigger disappointment. I know that turnovers are terrible and you're not going to win -3, but like -3 is also, you didn't get takeaways again. They didn't get stops when they needed them to. And I think the other side of the ball to me is the spot over the last couple of losses, Atlanta and now, Washington, Chicago. That's the side that need to step up and seize the day. And that's the side of the ball that I think needs a little bit more help, frankly.
Well, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, because that is where I want to go. But let's stay with like Terry and Noah. So we don't know yet. We'll get updated on Wednesday to get an update on Friday about them. That's, it's a little bit of a song and dance every week with it. I would hope that they're both back, because like if Brown doesn't come back now, like you've kept him on the roster for 5 weeks without playing, and that's a tough one. But let's say they come back this week. My concern, Bram, is has Terry McLaurin had enough time? Like they were not in sync before. Like he has missed so much time just getting the reps with Jaden that we don't, and this is impossible to answer. But what does it look like when he comes back? Because they were not in sync before, and he's missed more time. So that's my concern, is how long it takes for them to get that rhythm back, given all the time they've missed.
Yeah, I like this is where, while the offense and this team is going to be, look at the moves they made in the offseason, at least the prominent moves. Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, they drafted a tackle, drafted a running back, drafted a wide receiver / punt returner. Like they went, all in's the wrong word for it, but they put a lot of their chips in. We're going to get behind number 5. We're going to try to be hopefully, really, really good to potentially dominant on that side of the ball. And we know we have some weaknesses on defense, but we're hoping that that's going to carry the day. And unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, mostly injuries, but prominent contract standoff as well, they haven't been together the whole time. And now they've had a couple of injuries. And now we're waiting for them to get back on the field. And, the potential of this team will only be met if the complement of players, or at least the majority, everybody has injuries, but if the majority of players are out there and on the same page, we can see what the potential is. And again, like I saw somebody write, like, the sky's not falling. It isn't. They're 3-3. They're not in such a hole that they can't get out of it. They're 1 game back in their division lead. They haven't played that team yet. If they were to win this weekend, they're 2-0 in the division, and they'll basically be setting back Dallas in a way that doesn't bury them, but puts them in a really difficult position to start to get out of that. And it becomes what we hope is just a 2-team race all the way down the stretch. And they got 2 games against the Eagles at the end of the season. Nothing is out of reach here. Like, you go win your division, you get a home playoff game. They're 1 game back of Philadelphia. But clearly they have to get better. And so I'm not trying to make excuses either. That wasn't good enough. That was a team loss. They had too many turnovers. They're not making enough takeaways. And, unfortunately, the one guy who I'm like, I want the ball in his hands at every single moment where it's a winning time moment, he made his first big gaffe, in a spot like that. And you know what? He's going to make a mistake every once in a while. And I'll say this, Chicago got the ball on their side of the field after that, and they ran the clock out on them to kick a field goal. So the defense needed to step up and make a play, and unfortunately they couldn't.
That's my problem with the defense, is that just because you turn it over doesn't mean you have to give up points. Like, they turn it over, and I don't want to go completely there yet, but they turn it over, they intercepted a pass deep in Washington territory. You don't have to let them drive down the field and score. Like, those sudden change moments define defenses. And you're right. Like, if you're not going to stop them, get some takeaways. But when you're not doing either, it's tough. And I know, a lot of the point, but it's still like, that's my concern. But I do want to stay on Terry. Like, how do you get that back? Like, when can they get that back? Because they need to get that back. And, they had such a good rhythm last year, and it was sometimes just a matter of like the back shoulders and all that. They would really develop well, but man, missing the summer and then this injury is going to me, I don't know, Bram, and I don't know that we're going to know until they get out there. But, I don't know if it was you who asked, like, somebody asked Dan Quinn, like, what's it going to take? It's going to take reps. It's going to take reps for them to get back. And they just haven't had them. Same thing with Noah Brown, and, hopefully that he can stay on the field, because I don't know that, like, what he can do is very important to what they want to do offensively, or what they can do offensively, and how he can kind of open things up down the field. And, but if you're not out there, it doesn't matter. But I do, that is my concern, Bram. You'd rather have them out there, but does it take a game or 2 to get that back?
Yeah, I mean, probably, but more than anything, we just need to get him back out there. Like, he's their most dangerous threat on the outside by far, bar none, not close. And without him, they don't have a tremendous amount of receiver depth on this team. Maybe one of their younger guys really develops, like Lane potentially could develop that way, or Brooks, who got his first opportunities, but I think he's a long way away from that, but could develop into something like that. But they don't have that. And without him, you're seeing the issues here with their offense. And I'm hoping he's going to be back soon. But to answer the question of, are they going to get in sync soon? I don't know. We just got to get him out there. We got to get him start playing again. I'm hoping it's riding a bicycle. There's a couple of, he's one-on-one, chuck it up to him. He's incredible at contested catch situations. So let's just find out that way. But we need to get him back out on the field sooner rather than later. That clearly is obvious.
And I would say, like, Jalen Lane, I wasn't able to watch the whole game again today. I had so much stuff going on today. There was just stops and starts. But Jalen Lane had a couple nice moves. Again, I brought the 37-yarder, sells the double move really well. Dude bites on it, gone. But then there was another time where it was a blitz by Chicago, and Jaden was second 11, throws a 9-yard pass to Debo on a slant. But what I saw also was Jalen beating his guy. He was the inside receiver on a 1-by-3, and he was the inside receiver, beats his guy, tries to jam him. I just like that he was getting free like that, because you want, like, he's got some juice. So if you can give him the ball a little bit more, that will help as well. And I think when McLaurin and Brown are back, it just makes Debo and then Zach Ertz more effective. And I do have a little bit of concern with Debo Samuel on that heel, but getting those guys back first is the key. And so if you can do that, then yes, the defense has to play better, but you are now putting your team in a better spot for sure. So before we go on for a minute, folks, bear with me. I appreciate your patience. Got a couple ad reads, so just bear with me. So here we go. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. One more, folks. Life can be tough on and off the field. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. Moments in therapy, like learning to relate to your kids, healing relationships, coping with loss, can change lives. If you've ever been through therapy, you know the impact the right therapist can make. I know I do. The right therapist can change everything, and BetterHelp has more than 12 years experience in matching people to the right therapist. You take a short questionnaire to help find the right match. If you're not happy with the match, you can switch at any time. With more than 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session and over 1.7 million client reviews. So BetterHelp is celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help start you on that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Empire. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Empire. I think that's kind of an appropriate read tonight, Bram. There you go. Listen, man, and I don't want to make light of, just how bad that loss was, because again, to me, I'm not counting on the offense. Jaden will take care of the ball. They'll do a better job with stuff. There's hope for them getting better as more guys get healthy. Where is the hope to get better on defense? What is your level of either, your concern or your outlook for them, I should say?
Last night was one of the first times I thought the run defense has been better in general this year. The two narratives of the Bears actually aren't running the ball very well. Washington's defense has been better against the run. That didn't play to form. Washington is the number one rush offense. Bears are 31st in the league. I think that one is more explainable. They were stacking up the boxes, and as Logan Paulson likes to put it, the math was not in our favor. They just were not going to get beat on the ground. That said, Washington still had well over 100 yards rushing. It's not like they just weren't as prolific as they had been in the past. Last night was one of the first times that the run defense looked a little reminiscent of a year ago, where they had trouble on the edges with the pullers, what Logan and London always called the pin and pull. They were having problems with that. And so the speed to the outside was getting to them. And this is about the edge. And this was one of the first times that I thought about Dietrich Wise and said,
I was going to bring him up. Thank you.
That they were missing. And again, this is an injury. He's not coming back, unfortunately, but they were missing him. And so, I think they need to get stouter again on the edges. And then I heard Dan Quinn talk about this a little bit, and I kind of saw this too, but I'm no expert on it, but I did feel like the second level defenders, the linebackers, and in some cases the secondary, where it felt like not really in the gaps that they were supposed to be. I mean, there were a couple of occasions where I saw a tight end or a tackle block two members of the secondary at the same time. There were a few times it looked a couple times it looked as if the linebackers, were not exactly in the gap they're supposed to be. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a I'm an expert on anything like that, but that's what it looked like to me. And them saying it, kind of validated it. I would just say it was, probably their worst night of rush defense of the year. And that was a surprise because the Bears had not been very proficient at it to this point. And for some reason, some guys have your number, and Swift, it doesn't matter what jersey he's wearing, seems to have this team's number when he plays them. He had it last year. He had a big game against them last year. He's had it in an Eagles uniform. He's had it in a Lions uniform. They have a tough time with that guy.
Well, it helps when you have massive holes to run through. And and I think you're right. Like the run fits to me were bad last night, really bad. And the one you're talking about, there was a pulling lineman, and it was Samuel and Trey Amos both played to the outside. Like somebody's got to be on the inside, right? And that's that's where, as Logan says, that's where the math, that's where the math adds up. But that happened all night. And it's funny, Bram, because, I think the reputation with the linebackers, Wagner and Luvu, is, I was talking to an executive about this. Now, they might disagree. I'm just relaying the information, is that the feeling was like they're more anticipatory, and they use the word guess, but I'd say anticipatory. But if you're not anticipating it as fast, like maybe you're not filling the right gap, or maybe you're guessing wrong, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that's what they always do, but that's so I think there's sometimes with that misdirection can get them off a little bit. But if you guess right, it looks great. And but I'm not putting it on them. There were a lot of gaps. I felt like the Bears did a good job with their misdirections. And you shoot, they under center, fake to Swift going this way, you hand it off to DJ Moore coming back here, and just got all sorts of this stuff. But that's what Ben Johnson does. But I agree with you. I felt like the loss of Dietrich Wise was felt last night, more so just setting the edge. They weren't setting the edge well. And I think that's the first game in those pin pools. You need somebody to come up there and get up there. And he is good at all that stuff. And so that where I felt like that loss, and not saying if they have him, but that was an area where it's that's where they could have used that guy. For sure. So
there's one other thing I want to say about the defense. I've been waiting for who's the playmaker, right? Who's going to be I think we've all kind of thought about this. Who's the playmaker? And Dorrance Armstrong's having a fantastic year. Yeah. So maybe he is, to a degree. Luvu's energy is up the last couple of weeks. He was kind of, I couldn't believe how little we were calling his name, for the first 3-4 weeks. And they were talking about that offenses are treating him differently, and they're blocking him with different sized people. And they need to find a way to unlock him. I felt his presence last night a lot more. And I actually thought he played, relatively well. I'd have to go back and look at the run defense stuff, but I felt like here's the guy that I thought we were going to start seeing, which is the guy who's kind of the heartbeat playmaker. He's making the plays behind the line of scrimmage, whatever it may be. Someone in the secondary is going to have to become this for them too. Somebody Amos is terrific, but doesn't have any picks yet. Sanders still's got a couple, dropped another, had a penalty. That was a weak call. Lattimore is, a good corner, not a great one, maybe
well, the last couple weeks though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they barely threw at him actually last night. And it's funny, you go look at the numbers, DJ Moore and Roma Dunze had 6 catches for 60 yards or something like that. You can live with that. The one play that got me last night that I really, I wish could have a do-over. Listen, they were having trouble getting pressure on him with 4 last night. They had a much higher pressure rate the first 5 games up until last night. They were having trouble. And on the play that really, got the Bears into field goal range, it was a 3rd and 8. And they faux pressured and only brought 4, and Caleb hit a guy who's just waiting at a spot for them. This was the moment. I wish they could have that one back, because the pressure is what they need to do. And with Caleb, I think you do want him running around a little bit more than I think he did. He played more within the context of their offense, and I think he's growing. And, it's when he goes rogue that he makes the type of mistakes or the incompletions that kind of, take them out of drives. And that was the one play that I wish maybe there was a little more pressure that came, because they were struggling getting to him with 4 last night.
For sure. So, but by the way, I want to answer this one question, Bram, because people keep asking about it. Are we going to get other kickers? He's at P. Trenner's trend, whatever. John, are we going to get other kickers brought in? It's costing us points, field management. So Matt Gay's made 9 of his last 10 field goals. I know what we saw this summer. I know what it was early on. He's made 9 of his last 10, and the one he missed was a 50-yarder off the upright. So, yeah. I mean, this is what you want to, like, yes, he missed the field goal last night, but it's 9 out of 10. Like, this isn't the time to be talking about a new kicker. A few weeks ago, heck yes. Like, there was concern, like we all saw it, but if he starts slipping up, yeah, then at that point, but he's made 9 out of 10. So I'm not going to sit here and somebody asked, like, why don't you ask a tough question about Matt Gay? Well, what's the tough question about Matt Gay? It's not exactly hard to ask about the kicker, but he's made 9 out of 10. This is what you've wanted to see. If he had started off the season this way, we're not talking about this. He started off bad, had a inconsistent summer at best, but he's actually kicking better now. So I just wanted to, because like people keep asking about him, and I get it, but 9 out of 10, like that's the number. So for lately. So now if he has a bad game, a couple bad games, yes, of course. But I don't think at that point. And then also somebody asked about, Drake Jackson. They signed Drake Jackson, defensive end. Listen, man, that was a brutal knee injury. He had the ruptured patellar tendon in his knee. Brutal injury. The Niners waived him with a failed physical in May. The Niners had an opening for defensive end, and they did not bring him back. Doesn't mean he can't play, but it's one of those things. Okay, I don't know what you can count on him. Great to bring him in and see. Could be something where you bring him in, see what you got. Could he help? Maybe you can get him even for next year in the future. As far as Trey Burks, like a lot of injuries there too. So, that I wouldn't, if he comes in, like, here's the thing, like your receivers that you're adding are going to be Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown because they're doing all right without them. They come in, then, they come in. Now you have McLaurin, Debo, Brown. You have Jalen Lane, who's gotten better. You have Luke McCaffrey, who's contributing more. You're looking a lot different. I go back to Bram, which you talked about, is playmakers. And I don't know that they have a playmaker in that back seven that you really need. And that would be something that I would want to go get. And I don't know that I know we're going to get to trade deadline talk soon, but there's not going to be a guy that you're going to trade for with what they have with the draft capital and say, like, okay, now you can roll, right? I mean, people thought that getting Lattimore last year, it's like, oh, okay, here you go. And it's like, you see how these trades work out sometimes. People are trading guys for a reason. So I don't know that that's, I guess the thing I would ask is where do you get better on defense? How do you get better? Is it as simple as, I know people always rip the scheme. Well, others use a scheme and it works, right? Is it that? Is it just the discipline? Is it the personnel? Is it play calling? Bram, like, how do you get better back there?
Yeah. This could be a really interesting week. Dak is like white hot this year, like just like white hot. And I think CeeDee Lamb's going to play. At least that's what they're kind of saying. Pickens I think he's got 6 touchdown catches. Like it's something like 5 straight games with 50 plus yards and a touchdown catch. Like he's on a heater in his first season down there. Their passing games among the best in the NFL right now. And so this is going to get tested pretty hard this weekend. It feels like they're going to score a lot of points to win the game, but can the defense find a little bit more ability to be a playmaking defense? And I think that's where, like, when we came into the season, we looked at the defensive line, we all were like, they're way deeper. They're probably going to be better against the run. But we asked the same question, who's the guy who's going to change the game for them? Right. And I think Armstrong has been terrific, this year, like really, he's the defensive MVP to me this year so far, but like, he's not changing the game for them. They need, who's their haymaker up front, and then who's the guy on the back end that makes plays that flips games. The Quan Martin play against the Chargers flipped that game. They need more of it. 4 of 6 games without causing a single takeaway, like -3, like that's not sustainable. I don't care how good Jaden is. Like, that's just not sustainable. They know that. And so, it's not just like down to down. Can they be, more effective here or more effective there? They've got to go make some plays and flip games around. And that's what's not happening. And I keep waiting for it. And I'm hoping it's going to change. And I certainly don't have an answer for it. But like the fact that they were -3 last night and lost at the buzzer by a point is practically unbelievable. That they gave up that many yards on the ground, that they're missing the people they're missing, that they made the mistakes that they made. They missed a field goal. They had 3 turnovers. Like it's crazy that they were even in it with a team like that, but that's where it is.
All right, Brand, before we continue, folks, bear with me again. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member, add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. All right, folks, one more. The wallet I had before Ridge could have doubled as a phone book, and I think I've even thrown it away already. Wasn't good for my back at all. Now I have a sleek new wallet from Ridge. It's a slim, modern design that can hold up to 12 cards plus cash. Not that I always have a lot of it. It's made with premium materials, and all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. If you want one with the Commanders logo, you can get it. Ridge is more than just wallets. I have a magnetic wireless charger that is terrific. They have key cases where the keys fold inside. No matter the product, Ridge offers free shipping and a 99-day risk-free trial. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using the code KEIM, K-E-I-M, at checkout. Head to ridge.com and use the code KEIM, and you're all set. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Once again, 10% off at Ridge by using the code KEIM at checkout. Go to ridge.com, use the code KEIM, K-E-I-M. You're all set. Let them know where you heard about them. So we got a few more minutes left here, Bram, but I did want to kind of stay on that topic, because the defense is like, you look at the teams coming up the next couple of weeks, they've got to make some plays because you're putting so much pressure on the offense to be almost perfect. And I don't know that's going to be very, very difficult regardless of who's coming back. And I think like that's the area where I get concerned. And, I think you'd like to think that they can get better. And I know people are talking about a lot about Mikey Sanders still. They want to know a lot about him. Why the regression? I don't know. Like, there were times he was getting beat last year, and I don't know if maybe people didn't pay as much attention to it as they are this year because the plays aren't being made. But, and I think he can play better. I think there have been some games he has played better. And then somebody asked me, Juan wants to know, do they miss Jeremy Chin? I think they miss Harris for sure. I think with Chin, like, listen, man, like, this is what they were last year with Jeremy Chin. So I don't know, like, could they have used a bigger guy like that? Yes. But I don't know how much they miss him, but I do think Harris is missed as well because he offered a skill and coverage that I think they could use against some of these teams. So, I don't, but I like, here's the other part, Bram, for, Lattimore, 2 good games in a row. Trey Amos, I thought, did a nice job yesterday. I don't feel like it was the corners that necessarily cost them. And there were, so I don't know that was the big issue. I just felt like up front, the run game, the run D, and that's incorporating all of them, was just bad. And you can't, like, if they go down to Dallas and Javonte Williams goes off, it's going to be a long day for them. You're looking at 42-37 and hope you have the ball in the last minute.
And my standard issue with, at least from a personnel perspective for the defense, is the matchup issues that they typically run into for the big plays are really good pass catching running backs and really good athletic tight ends. The athletic tight end thing actually didn't burn them last night. Komet and Loveland had like 2 catches for 11 yards or something.
They haven't done much this year, though.
They didn't actually burn them, but here was, and this was partially just a big time missed tackle. Swift gets out in the flat. He gets a really nice pick from DJ Moore. You need to turn what is a 10-15 yard play into a 10-15 yard play, not a 55-yard touchdown. So that's one of the big mistakes, that occurred last night. But it's been repetitive here that when teams have really good athletic out in the flat pass catching running backs, that's where a lot of the big plays are coming against them. And to me, some of that is like, there might have to be some upgrades, in terms of people who can cover that. And so I think that'll be something they'll be looking into next year. But like, everybody has weaknesses. You have what you have, and everybody's got weaknesses. And, like, we'll look at Dallas's defense is among the worst in the NFL right now in literally every metric. Like, they're bottom 2 in like literally everything. So, this feels like a shootout this weekend, but we'll see. And if the Washington defense could be just, a little bit better than they were and avoid that, they haven't been killed on the big plays by the receivers yet. I'm worried about Ferguson, honestly, this weekend, because that's the spot, where they've had a problem here. But, I think, unfortunately, this is not a finished roster. It's not a finished product, but, there are plenty of things I think to look at from last night where they could have just played better, frankly, and maybe called the game a little bit better, frankly, and hopefully it'll get better, and that's all we can really ask for. Like, nothing's decided here. They're 3-3 after their two big losses this year. They totally bounced back and played really well in both of the games after them. So I'm hoping something turns the corner. And I do think part of it will be if they get, some of their prominent offensive stars back, it may help out a lot, both sides of the ball.
For sure. And just a couple more minutes here. And then, because people ask about Jordan McGee too. And last week he played 12 snaps. It's very game specific for when he plays. And there's got to be some bigger packages when they use their 3 linebacker sets. They use there are two linebacker sets. It's like their nickel defense, probably almost 80% of the time. It's one of the highest rates in the NFL. The team with the most that does that is Seattle, which has a really good defense. So, there's more to it than just that. But, I like Jordan McGee. I think he has a good future based off what we've seen, but you still need to see more. I don't know if it's funny because every week I think like maybe he might get a little bit more time, but it still feels very game plan specific for when he plays. So I did like what he added last week. And I think that is an area where, again, the coverage is not the strength of the linebackers at this point. And
no, this one comment where someone said it feels like it's slipping away, but maybe it's not. They're 0-3 in the conference. They're actually 1-3 in conference because they beat the Giants in the opener. Yes, I think that's losing to Atlanta, losing to Green Bay, teams that potentially are in their way. Chicago are in their way of potentially what feels like if they were in a wild card race is an issue. That said, they're one game back for their division. That's not going to matter if they go and win their division. So, right now, I would look, that's my goal, win the NFC East. And I think they can do that. And don't laugh at it. Like, go watch Philadelphia the last couple of weeks and don't think that it's not up in the air and in play for them to do it. And I do think they're going to get better. And I'll just keep going back to, like, their offense never practiced as a group since day one of training camp, not once. And so I'm waiting for that to happen and then get some people back. And, this is, again, here's a team that was without their starting quarterback for 2 games. Like, it's a rough road, but it's a long road. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember RG3's year when they made the playoffs. They were 3-6 that year. Things can change. Go ask the Falcons before they played the Commanders this year after they lost 30-0 to Carolina, how they thought their season was going at the time. So things can change, and I'm pretty convinced that a group that shows a lot of resiliency, I wish they'd have to stop coming back in every game that they're in, but they do come back in every game that they're in and have come off of bad losses, 3 of them now, at least 2 of them. We've seen them be resilient. We haven't seen the best of Daniels yet. I still have a lot of hope that things can turn around and when we're playing meaningful football in December again. Like, I don't think anything's over here, but last night was certainly a gut punch. I'm not trying to dismiss it. It really was.
Yeah, it was tough, but now there you go. Bram's got him. It's 14-3. So I think you guys should feel pretty good.
Not quite. Not quite.
It is, but you're right though, man, because you don't know. And listen, I go back to that 2012 season. So much of it, Bram, went back to the defense wasn't in terms of stats and all that, they weren't very good. But what they did great was take the ball away. And then you had an offense that was, white hot. So, but they took the ball away and they found ways to do it. This group needs to start creating more opportunities. Now, the other thing is because if you start doing that, you're getting good field position from the kick return game. The problem is sometimes they have too many kick returns in a game. That's a problem because you don't want too many, but when they do, they're getting good field position. And so if you can start giving the offense better field position just with some takeaways, that of course would help. And that to me is the one thing that the defense can do. Like, if you're not going to be a shutdown defense, that's fine. Take the ball away. And that's what the Bears do. The Bears are not a good defense, but they take the ball away, and they did.
They are fast, and I will tell you, like, when it goes back to the idea of can what the Bears did, kind of get replicated? Will they stack the box and not really respect the outside? Well, 1, Terry coming back is going to change that, but 2, the real strength of the Bears defense coming into the game last night was their secondary. They were causing a ton of turnovers. They had 8
Right.
in the previous 2 games before they played Washington. They got 3 again last night. Don't laugh. Tyreek Stevenson's looked great this year. I know he got burned on that one play to Lane last night, but he's actually really had a really nice start to his season off all the Hail Mary stuff from a year ago. They got Kyler Gordon back. They liked that matchup. Brisker, obviously, very talented player. They're very good on the back end. They were getting gutted up front and they were getting gashed. But on the back end, what was keeping them in games is they were flipping games around like playmakers. This is what I'm talking about. And they were very good on the edge. This is what they lined up. Does Dallas, like take Dallas, for example, this weekend, and let's just say, argument's sake, that, you know, either Terry or Noah doesn't play again. And so they're limited again on the outside. Do they trust Bland and Diggs enough right now and their safeties enough to actually do that? Or are they concerned that they'll get beat more over the top? You know, so like to replicate what the Bears did, I think like it ended up being a pretty good matchup for them to take the risk. And at the same time, keep in mind, like, even in doing that, they were burned twice. They gave up a 33-yard touchdown, and they gave the long play to Lane, too, that ended up being a scoring drive. So it's not like it worked perfectly for them. It's a risk when you do something like that. Be interested to see how Dallas plays it. If they try to replicate this, go ahead. Like, let's take our chances with something like that.
Well, and last thing for me then, too, I don't think they'll do that, Brand, because that's not Eberflus's style. They're like apparently they're playing a lot more zone this year. It's not good for them right now either, but that's really good, I think, for this team right now to face a heavy zone defense. And I don't know that they have, that's a really messed up defense down there right now. So it should be, like you said, it should be a shootout. But that's why I say I don't think, like, you're right, like that heavy box just coming after them and not worrying about the receivers. But if McLaurin and Brown are back, now you have to worry about them. That changes how teams are going to have to play you. And I know people are drained by the Noah Brown experience, but he is on the roster. Therefore, we're going to talk about him this way, and he can help you when he's on the field. Just has to be there. And that, of course, is the issue. You got any parting thoughts here, Bram?
I'm tired, and I'm glad this day is coming to an end, and I can't wait to get on the field again next week because I really want to see them, get back out on the field. They have bounced back in their other 2, what felt like deflating losses. This one's a real gut punch, but I believe that we're going to see a better performance. Now, will they score enough to win? That's an interesting question, but I think we're going to see a better performance for sure.
Yeah. And by the way, Keim Medrano is not the answer to their defensive issues. Like, let's slow our roll on some of that stuff. Like you draft a guy like that for the future. He did not show this summer that he was ready for that kind of role. Maybe down the road he will, but not at this point. So like you're going to live with the linebackers you have. And I think the only one that you can get out there too is Jordan McGee. Can you find him more time? But anyways, that's a whole nother thing. We already talked about that. Bram, thank you very much for hopping on. Thank you everybody for the comments, your patience with whatever I have to read. Appreciate it. The success of the show is because of you guys, and it leads to other things because of that. So thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back on Thursday morning with Todd Archer, who covers the Cowboys for ESPN. I think you'll enjoy half of that discussion quite a bit. The other half, you may want to do a little bit of this. You never know. So anyways, appreciate it. Thank you. I'll talk to you next time.